On this week's episode of the Vintage News, we talk the Reimagined series. Are people just getting tired of it? We also cover some actual news, a string of robberies in Chicago that you should probably pay attention to before it hits your city or town. Finally, we cover Y2K, what's hot, what's not, and what you should be on the lookout for big bucks. On today's episode, we cover actual news, a string of robberies plaguing Chicago vintage stores. Over the past few weeks, several vintage and sneaker stores in the Chicago area have been broken into using a car. It appears that thieves have learned how to hotwire Jeep Cherokees and have been using these stolen cars to smash through the security gates of vintage and sneaker stores. Stores like Flea Club and Endless Supply were the first ones to be hit. When news of this broke, Boneyard Chicago actually hired a security guard, but unfortunately that proved to be pointless as they were hit less than a week later. The thieves then went on to smash into Round 2 Chicago, but luckily for Chris Russo and company, they weren't actually able to get inside thanks to the brick exterior. Days later, Urban Jungle was hit, with thieves taking a ton of inventory from there. It's very sad to see these local stores being targeted. If you guys want to help support these stores in rebuilding, we highly suggest to shop their online stores, which you can see here. And if you own a Jeep Cherokee, well, you might as well get one of those U-locks for your steering wheel. In sneaker news, Jordan Brand is continuing the onslaught of their Reimagined series, with news breaking that the Bred 4s will be the next batch to be released in February of 2024. The Reimagined series is beginning to tire some people, however, with lots of complaints lodged about the full leather in this version of the Bred 4. Lots of people have been speculating that they should have used the nubuck leather as the 2019 edition has. Our thoughts are that the popularity of vintage has really stuck in the minds of those running Jordan Brand at the moment. We guess that the Reimagined series will continue all the way up to the end of 2024. With resale prices dropping lower than ever, we are beginning to see popular models like the Jordan 1 sit on shelves and sometimes even go on sale. Jordan Brand is no doubt aware of this, and in order to keep the hype going on their shoes, they need to re-release colorways that people will clamor for. But re-releasing the same colorway is a bit lackluster. Thus enters the Reimagined series. They can release a new old colorway in an old new version and people will still eat it up like hotcakes. It's different than the last time, but still a classic in sneakerheads' eyes, so they have to have it. What do you guys think? Are you gonna go for a pair of the Jordan 4 Breds? I probably will. This week's sponsor of the show is Defunct. Defunct is an Instagram page as well as a website where you can get all your vintage information. Remember to check out Defunct's bi-weekly Instagram series called Heat Check, where they do a roundup of the top selling shirts on eBay in the last 2 weeks. Defunct also has a massive online archive of forums talking about vintage t-shirts dating back all the way to the mid-2000s. It's an incredible resource, and if you're looking for price checks or authenticity checks, their forum is a great place to start, as well as all the articles that you can find on their page. That's at Defunct or defunct.com for all your vintage needs. Now, back to the show. Next, we have a trend report for all you vintage lovers. Y2K has been back for almost a year now, with Gen Z loving the old brands of my youth like Christian Audager, Ed Hardy, and True Religions, or Truies, as the kids like to call them. This is quite baffling to me. It's like seeing my high school bullies walking the streets once again. Maybe that means that the old emo tees that I used to wear will be worth something in the near future. Young fashion lovers are killing for Jenko jeans right now, with sales hitting as high as $500 for vintage pairs. Pairs with tribal embroidery or different graphics on the back pockets seem to be the most in demand and thus the most expensive pairs of Jenkos, with similar styles of off-brand jeans still hitting highs as much as $100 to $200 each. We've also noticed the rise of vintage sayings tees. I don't really know a better descriptor, but it's essentially the tees you used to get at Hot Topic that just said something stupid, lewd, or downright dirty on them. With curators like Sad Boy Vintage really leading the charge in this area, I guess shock value was high then and it's back in style now. Finally, you may have seen a copycat version of the vintage news on Instagram lately. A previous partner of the show has decided to recast and remake the vintage news without my permission. While we don't own any copyright to the show or vintage news in any area, it is still incredibly disappointing and honestly disheartening to see this. If you've made it this far in the show, we ask please if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and share any of the clips that you see on Instagram or TikTok. It really brings the OG vintage news back to light for the people who may have missed it previously. I've been writing, producing, filming, and editing the show all by myself up until recently for 3 years now, and it would really mean a lot if you shared anything about the vintage news. Thank you. And on that uplifting note, I'm Tom from Continuity. Thanks for watching, and this is the Vintage News signing out.